people, MetaXLR here, bringing you yet another reaction video. This time it's going to be on Field Theory. You are breathing poison from the Phineas and Ferb Field Theory. Blah. I don't know what to expect from this one, so I'm just going a little bit blindly on this. And yeah, I'm not too huge on Phineas and Ferb. I mean, I do like the concept, but it's just that I think I would prefer the one where Marvel superheroes start appearing in that show, in that movie. It's kind of strange, and yeah, if you heard about the whole conspiracies and stuff like that, yeah, it's really weird. Anyways, hold on. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Start.
I gotta say, Candace is the unsung hero of Phineas and Ferb. I mean, the show is now over 13 years old, older than the boys themselves, meaning that, regardless of when you started watching it, you're probably closer to Candace's age now that you move on to adulthood.
I know you don't know what I mean, but you're not gonna know it till you turn 18. It's called adulting.
And with that added bit of maturity, I think we can all agree, Candace is definitely the most relatable character on the show.
Every day, I get beaten down by the universe. I just feel so defeated.
Big mood, Candace. Big mood. Hello, Internet! Welcome to...
I have nothing to say about this since, like I said before, I never watched Phineas and Ferb, but if any of you would like to call out this individual for something they got wrong, just keep in mind you should at least do your research and at least be accurate. Put it in the comments if you can. Continuing.
To Film Theory, the show that wakes up every morning knowing exactly what it's gonna do today, ruin someone's childhood. So, between episodes of WandaVision, I decided that I needed to find something else to validate my subscription to Disney+, which meant that I finally found some time to watch the big exclusive animated film from 2020 that everyone's been raving about, Candace Against the Universe, the Phineas and Ferb movie. Did anyone else know that this existed? Yeah, I didn't either until I started digging around in the Disney+ library. True to form, this new Phineas and Ferb adventure has everything you could hope for, plus several neat twists to set this one apart from the rest of the series, the biggest of which is a new villain. And a new villain means new things to theorize about. And let me tell you, as I started researching this villain, I not only uncovered some startling things about the core premise of the movie, but also had some deep existential revelations about the nature of humanity itself. Like the fact that we, as a species, regularly breathe poison. So, are you ready for the best theory ever? Well, this one is not it. Hey, just trying to be honest. We have done...
Okay, I know where he's going with this. I remember, what was that guy's name again? Oh yeah, Noggin. I remember Noggin going into this. The air we breathe is poisonous, but what's keeping us from dying from the poison is antibiotics, I think, or some sort of antioxide chemical that helps us breathe the air we breathe. And by the way, Noggin actually did this on his Pikmin theory or whatever. It's really interesting. I would recommend you guys check it out because it does make me think about what kind of how we are able to survive with all that oxygen we breathe, which could be poisonous, if that's what Mapat's going at. Continuing.
On hundreds of theories and only one can truly be the best. But while it may not be the best, it is a fun one, talking about a childhood classic series with a lot of interesting science, so what else would you subscribe to this channel for? Oh wait, I do know the reason to subscribe. Our upcoming theories on Has-Been Hotel and another Phineas and Ferb one that does talk about the lore of the series and everyone's favorite character, Dr. Doof. So Candace Against the Universe kicks off when Phineas and Ferb's sister Candace gets abducted by aliens.
Candace apparently has been abducted by aliens.
To rescue her, Phineas and Ferb must team team up with Dr. Doofenshmirtz for a rescue mission, with Perry the Platypus tagging along to keep him safe. Luckily, Dr. Doof has a spaceship that they can all use to chase the alien kidnappers.
I don't have a spaceship per se, but I do have my galactic travelinator.
Sorry, Galactic Travelinator. The alien ship lands on the planet.
Looks more like a rocket ship than a spaceship. But, you know, both of them go traveling in space, so what's the difference? I'm not trying to make a joke here, I'm just pointing that out. Continuing.
Feebla Oot in the Roblox cluster.
The Roblox cluster.
Vroblock cluster. Jeez, try saying that one 5 times fast.
Roblox.
Huh, I guess.
Okay, that was actually kind of funny. Continuing.
It's not that hard.
Roblox.
At first, the alien abductors seem pretty friendly. They consider Candace the chosen one due to her ability to produce a rare element that they desperately need.
We have spent years searching the galaxy for Remarkalonium, and our instruments tell us that element simply emanates from you.
Candace gets herself a warm welcome and really hits it off with the alien's leader, Super Big Doctor.
I'm Super Big Doctor. Is that a title or your... It's a common enough name in our language.
All seems to be going well enough for Candace until we learn about an underground race of aliens, the Cowards, who ran away there after Super Big Doctor invaded their planet.
We are called the Cowards. In our language, it means coward.
You see, Super Big Doctor has an evil power, the ability to control the minds of other species. She does this using a plant called Mama. To be clear, the plant isn't her mother, it was just named after her.
I named her after my mother, whose name just happened to be Mama. Weird coincidence. She was also green and very controlling.
Mama is the reason Candace needs to generate Remarkalonium.
Remarkalonium is Mama's lifeblood. But thanks to you, now she can grow again and produce her wonderful mind-controlling spores. Wait, mind-controlling spores?
And it's here that we learn what exactly Remarkalonium is.
In your language, I think it's called carbon dioxide, or CO2.
Wait, your rare element is carbon dioxide?
Not to be the but actually guy here, Candace, but actually carbon dioxide isn't an element. It's technically a chemical compound that consists of 2 different elements, carbon and oxygen. But go off, Candace, go off.
Well, on Earth, everybody exhales carbon dioxide, genius.
And with that, the cat's out of the bag. The aliens set their sights on Earth and go for a full-on alien invasion, meaning it's up to the gang to team up and stop them. The premise is, like any regular episode of Phineas and Ferb, absolutely fun and completely outlandish, but as you can already tell, it's also based on some science. The crazy thing is, though, when you follow the science to its logical conclusion, it actually leads back to an...
Is it going to be carbon dioxide or is it going to be oxygen? If it's carbon dioxide, yeah, it makes sense. Because carbon dioxide is kind of poisonous to humans, including other life species, not so much to plants, because they breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. Basic science. Continuing.
Interesting twist for the movie's story, one that completely flips the movie's conclusion on its head. So let's just walk through my line of thinking here. First, when Super Big Doctor says that Mama, the mind-controlling plant, needs carbon dioxide to grow and thrive, she is 100% correct. All plants need carbon dioxide as one of its critical ingredients required for photosynthesis, the chemical reaction that allows plants to convert solar energy into usable energy. The other ingredient for photosynthesis is water. Obviously, no big surprises there. The photosynthesis reaction, when written out in chemical terms, looks like this. Breaking it down, this should be pretty straightforward. 6 parts CO2, carbon dioxide, plus 6 parts H2O, water, gives us 6 parts O2, oxygen, and 1 part glucose, sugar. No need to dive into the Krebs cycle this time, my friends. This time. And creating glucose is great for the plant, since it's a highly concentrated form of energy that the plant can use, or that we can use if we chop it down.
Glucose. I would have to imagine that glucose can also occupy our stomachs, like it also gives us energy. So yeah, that makes sense. Glucose is a kind of sugar in the sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I can't help it. I just like biology and the state and life as we know it, and blah 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 blah. Continuing.
down and eat it. But the oxygen is actually useless to the plant. It's essentially a waste product released into the atmosphere, largely because oxygen is actually a corrosive gas. Now, that might sound extreme, but it's totally not. Earth's atmosphere is only about 20% oxygen, and this is the sweet spot for us. Breathing concentrations higher than that can cause cell damage in your respiratory system, your vision, even your central nervous system. But despite its corrosive properties, oxygen in smaller doses is useful to us. In chemical terms, our cells are basically doing photosynthesis in reverse. Our cells consume glucose and oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. Yeah, if you didn't realize it.
Okay, that's actually interesting. Well, kind of like the opposite of plants. We get our life from oxygen and glucose. Interesting. Anyways, continuing.
That you're exhaling H2O every time you breathe out. That's why a mirror will get foggy when you breathe on it. In short, we share a symbiotic relationship with plants. We breathe out what they need to survive, and they produce what we need to live. So,
Good choice of words, Pat. Good choice of words. I don't know. I just like scientific terms being used properly, especially when it comes to biology like this. Continuing.
why then is Super Big Doctor in need of a human like Candace when basically anyone can create CO2? Well, the alien respiratory system doesn't work in the same way.
We inhale oxygen and exhale oxygen.
This means that the planet of Feebla Oot doesn't have enough carbon dioxide to make her mind control plant grow. Except here's the thing, she's wrong. She is completely and utterly wrong about that. There should be more than enough CO2 on that planet. And we know it for one reason, mushrooms. In almost every shot of Feebla Oot, we see that the planet is populated with gigantic mushrooms. And mushrooms, funny enough, don't work like plants, largely because they're not plants. Mushrooms are unable to make their own food. It's also why fungi aren't green. They don't have the green chloroplasts that are necessary.
To sum it shortly before MapHat does, mushrooms are decomposers. They get their food from dead things, like dead plants or dead corpse. They're not scavengers per se, because scavengers hunt for dead things, while decomposers get their food from whatever's around them that's dead. You should really look up Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's another show I also recommend. Continuing.
For photosynthesis to happen. Instead, fungi function a lot more similarly to humans. They breathe just like us. Speaking in the broadest of strokes, they inhale oxygen and they exhale CO2. But to be more specific, because that's also a...
So they're not plants. Kind of like... They're not exactly plants because they're kind of similar to us. Huh. I wonder... There is one thing I want to know. Actually, you know what? Actually, I think I know how. I think the mushrooms die before they can even breathe in the oxygen and CO2. And breathe out the CO2. Yeah, anyways, continuing.
A gross simplification of what's going on here. As plants grow, they absorb CO2. Fungi then decompose that plant matter and other living materials, which frees the CO2 back out into the environment. Just like with animals, fungi produce CO2 as a byproduct of their natural metabolism. And not insignificant amounts of the stuff either. For instance, a patch of pearl oyster mushrooms can release up to roughly half its own weight in CO2, which means that CO2 is not the problem with Super Big Doctor's mama plant. Adding to this theory is the fact that when the alien species invades Earth, the mama plant actually grows so fast that it becomes a monster. If CO2 levels were indeed the issue holding the plant's growth back, Earth's atmosphere would not be the explanation. Carbon dioxide is just a trace gas in our atmosphere, making up 0.04% of the air that we breathe. So again, Super Big Doctor's plan seems to be flawed at its most basic of basic levels. Instead, what I think is really going on here isn't a carbon shortage, it's a nitrogen nitrogen shortage. Mama needs her nitro, my friends. It may seem like I'm splitting hairs here, but I'm not, and you're about to see why. You see, nitrogen is so vital to plants because it's a major component of chlorophyll, the compound that plants need to do photosynthesis in the first place. Without nitrogen, and by proxy chlorophyll, all the water and carbon dioxide in the world is going to be useless to a given plant. It's also a major component of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. Without proteins, plants wither and die, just like we see going on with Mama. So how do we know that nitrogen is the real problem with Mama? Well, since nitrogen is a vital component for chlorophyll, unhealthy plants tend to be yellower, or a more yellowish green. Compare these two plants. The one on the left has a nitrogen deficiency. The one on the right doesn't. Now, compare pre-Earth Mama with post-Earth Mama, and you can see that when she's in peak health, she is meant to be a super dark color of green, which tells us that her chlorophyll is operating at max capacity, and that before it really wasn't. It was just kind of struggling along.
That explains how most green plants get greener. They have a lot of chlorophyll in them. Huh. Cool. Yeah. Matt Pet blinded me with science! Kind of. A little. I'm more like half blind. Anyways, continuing.
Also helping our case here is the fact that even when Candace is hooked up to the CO2-inator, aka the treadmill, Mama shows no signs of physical recovery. The plant is still as floppy and lifeless as ever, despite all the carbon that our chosen one is supposedly emitting. But the clincher here is Earth's atmosphere. Isn't it strange that Mama just explodes in growth within minutes of being on Earth's surface? Not just growing healthy, but instantly becoming overgrown to the point of being a bloodthirsty monster. Well, unlike the trace amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere that we talked about earlier, nitrogen accounts for nearly 78% of the air that we breathe. Far more than carbon dioxide, far more than oxygen, and far and away the #1 element mixed in there. So if an alien plant was short of an element and then got flooded with that element, it would explain the insane levels of growth that Mama sees in this movie. Now, to be fair, Earth plants naturally get their nitrogen from the soil, not from the air, so that would be one major difference between Mama and an Earth plant. But you know, plants also don't grow eyes or produce mind-controlling spores, so I'm gonna let that one slide. In short, it is immediately clear that Super Big Doctor is a doctor in name only, and not in intelligence or training. Fibla Ut, the planet she chose to invade, is covered in mushrooms, and therefore should have plenty of carbon dioxide to allow her mind-controlling plant to thrive. Instead, she misjudged the root of her root problem. And while that certainly sucks for her conquest of the planet, it sucks worse for Candace. It means that ultimately, she is not the chosen one. Not just because any human can produce carbon dioxide, but rather because CO2 levels were never the problem to begin with. Sorry, Candace.
It's not fair.
It's a good thing the moral of this movie is that her being a good big sister is the thing that makes her special. Otherwise, this would have been a real downer of an ending. Just remember, kiddos, it's who you are as a person that matters the most, not the gases that you produce. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. And hey, if you're looking for more Phineas and Ferb theories, click the box on the left where we dissect the science of the first ever episode of the show. Or if you're more into the...
Sorry, kids. My nieces and nephew, anyways. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyways, I learned a lot from this. Yeah, I think you would know that the majority of our our planet contains nitrogen. That's interesting to say the least. Um, yeah. And yeah, I I kind of like the science in this because it actually lets me learn more about plants in general. Yeah. Yeah, I'll give thumbs up for MadPet for giving good education for this. Yeah. Um. Anyways, without further ado, Metawater XLR signing off. And remember, you aren't the best guy, but you don't have to act like the bad guy.